So they always talk about 7 generations forward, 7 generations backward. So when you think about that, we're wired differently if we suffered different types of abuse. It could be sexual, it could be financial, it could be spiritual, emotional. It doesn't matter, right? Any type of abuse. And then during conception, all that gets transferred over. And the way our neural system develops is based on that, on how we deal with stress, how we react to it. And then if you put on top of what media tells us every day, like women are supposed to look beautiful, they're objects, we're objectified all the time. And so with that, all that just eats at you emotionally too, right? So it's compounded. It's just, we're trying to change it all the time. We're trying to change attitudes. We're gonna start a campaign soon. We had one early, who remembers? Remember when the BC campaign came out, Say Something?
Yes.
Yeah, before that, never had started a social media campaign called It's Not Okay. But then the BC government did that one, so we quit doing it. And then government changed and they stopped it. And so now with our Network to Eliminate Violence in Relationships, we're in the process of restarting a campaign. I don't know if it's still gonna call it It's Not Okay. But we feel that if we don't do it, who's gonna do it? And we'd like all of you to join us, because all this is consistently happening in our communities. And yes, this is a film about us, Canadian, South Asia, whatever we're calling ourselves these days. Family.
Brown.
Yeah, there's so many labels for us. But it's not just, our people or who look brown or of a certain geographic area who've immigrated here. It happens in every single culture, all walks of life. Right? So we all need to band together and deal with it. Question?
Seems to me I recall that there was something in schools that the kids learned about green light or red light. And,
Green flags and red flags?
I'm not sure, it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I have to admit that one of the saddest things I ever heard was when a mom told me that one day she was driving in the car and her daughter said, "Mommy, you know that disease, sex abuse?" And the mother said, "Yeah." The little girl said,
Test.
"I think I have it." Yeah,
I hope she got help.
yeah, she did. Mom had listened and all the rest of it, but she was just telling me, she's sharing that with me. But because they had been talking about it in school.
Yeah, it's important to talk about in all spaces. Schools are one area, but we got a couple of retired teachers there. They always tell me that there's not enough room in the curriculum for all the things we'd like them to teach in schools, right? It's an important piece, but we have to talk about it in all kinds of spaces. And in terms of when somebody does reveal to you, the first thing we say is believe them, right? I have these for all of you. They're on our table there. This is on how to recognize abuse and then how to help someone and how to find resources. So the resources for the Lower Mainland are all in the back. We're trying to make it easier for everybody, but we have to have the mind frame to recognize it, and we don't always recognize it when it's right in front of us. Any questions, comments? I could just keep talking, I'm a lecturer. Yes.
My first comment is thank heaven for sisters. And it seems like you all really pulled together, and that's a blessing. And my second comment is thank you for your courage to speak out about this.
On that note, can I invite my sisters up here?
Of course.
Sakshana, come, eat it. Yeah, we've always stuck together. It's interesting. It's led us to this journey here, you know, standing in front of you today. And who would have thought these little small town girls, you know, like I said, you know, we said in the film that we're a byproduct, you know, for our parents' quest for a son. And if somebody had told me when I was little, you know, you're gonna grow up and this is what you're gonna do, I would never have believed them. Nor would I have believed that I would have ever have broken my silence. Never. But fast forward, it's the best thing that I've ever done. They say you don't have the secret has you. I probably would have been like, you know, diseased or ill or, you know, dead by now, to be honest with you. It was that burdensome and heavy inside me, and I saw my sisters, you know, what was going on inside them too. So the best thing we did was break our silence. And fortunately, we do have this bond between us. Perhaps it was because we were treated in, you know, such a ill manner when we were kids by you know, our family and stuff. And it kept us together because we had to keep ourselves safe and protect each other and give each other love. Because Mom was too busy working, Dad was, you know, kind of mean and physically violent at times. So the aunts and uncles, you know, like they said, like it was mentioned in the film, they disciplined us in whatever manner they chose. And our parents didn't set boundaries or anything. So I want to pass this on to my sisters, and if you have something to say, we'd love to hear.
Well, how do you guys feel after watching that? You know? And I'm okay with you guys kind of keeping it light, because that's how we actually got through all of the stuff that we went through. And we actually just did a book signing for Jeeti in Williams Lake. And I know, I looked at the audience, some of the people were like, oh my gosh, sure enough. But it's okay, because that's, you know, one of our defense mechanisms. That's one of the ways that we can kind of, you know, take off that burden, like Jeeti said. I want to point out that when we first kept our silence, we kept it to protect each other. When we first found out what each was going through, we were like, oh, we have to protect each other. And then all of a sudden, things started rolling, and then fingers were starting to be pointed. Then we spoke our truth to protect each other. And the power that we had in speaking our truth, you can see the outcome. It's just as it snowballs down, and this is where we are. We're really lucky that we were able to inspire not only each other, but inspire women's groups, women's advocacy groups. We've inspired people to make their own documentaries. And also, every time our documentary is screened, especially in high schools, there's always somebody that comes out with their, you know, abuse and their trauma. So they have been inspired to go through the judicial system as well, and just, you know, proud of, you know, Jeeti's vision with the documentary and how she approached the NFB and wanted to share her stories. And I always tell everybody, because when they watch documentary, they think, oh, you did this great thing. 95% of the time, I was an unwilling participant in this documentary. I was very begrudgingly there. And in the scene where I'm about to speak to my dad, you can see that my eyes are shifting. I'm going and looking towards the door because I want to get the bleep out of there, right? This is not something that I wanted to do and talk about to my, you know, parental unit. But I'm glad I stayed. I'm glad I trusted her vision, and I'm glad I was able to share that moment with all of you as well. Thank you.
Oh, there's a question.
There's questions. There's a few of them.
Okay, you can take questions.
Yeah, I really appreciated the confrontation and the emotions that you expressed at that point.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm not finished.
Oh, he's not finished.
Oh, sorry.
an opportunity that my older sister.
His sister was abused by somebody who was in the home and piano teacher, somebody from the church. So it was, I give him this reliving this emotion for him.
Yeah, my older sister never had the opportunity to confront her mother. Nothing like that. It was purely a barrier that came up within the household. And my sister, now in her mid-70s, she still can't deal with it.
Can I please add? She is being heard. This is her voice.
Yeah.
Whether anyone in her family or parental unit or whoever else, didn't want to hear it, but this is her voice.
That's right. That's why I really appreciate it.
And it's an honor to be doing this work.
Yeah, you know what, okay. First of all, thank you. Beyond thanks, there are no words, as you say. First of all, is it too late to go after that blank person?
Well, the system's done with him, so, yeah.
Or could you, ladies, could you not deal with that again without it just too raw?
The courts won't deal with him again, no, not pertaining to us. It's only like a one-shot deal. If he is found, guilty, great, which he was, and then all charges were dropped. He didn't have to, face sentencing. He doesn't have a criminal record. He doesn't have to register on the sex offenders registry list because the judge granted his application, where he claimed his rights to a timely trial were violated. In the system, we don't have rights. We are only a mere witness of the state. He has the rights. It's his charter of rights that was violated, not ours, that for 14 years we were, a part of this whole criminal process. That's how we're treated by the system. And I see a parallel as to the culture that I come from, the family that I come from, you saw my dad, and all the restrictions culturally and the limiting beliefs. I see the parallel with the court system. It's the same. It's the same, and it's there to protect the men.
Even as 2-3 years ago, there was a judge who commented or allowed the prosecutor to ask that the abuse happened because you were dressed in a certain way, or you were wearing red underwear, or if you look at the court cases in the last few years around the globe, you get those kinds of comments. And then in a recent study of women in politics around the world that have positions in government, now I can't remember the exact number, but it's somewhere around 60% felt they were abused. So when I read statistics like that, these are supposed to be women of influence and in power. So if they're being abused, how do you expect us normal, everyday women to not be abused? What can we do because it's so accepted in society?
No, I really believe that it's time the judicial system changes. And until that happens, we're not going to see any difference here whatsoever.
We're pushing on our system.
And also,
Trying.
if you look to see if all the charges, mine was considered not guilty.
Speak to the mic.
Out of all the charges that he was found guilty, the only ones that he was found not guilty was the charges against me. And I truly believe in my heart that I didn't look like a victim. I didn't look like, somebody who was, being totally broken. I had a few episodes where I did, break down on the stand, but then I bounced back. And the patriarchal judge did not find me a credible witness and did not believe me because in his eyes, I did not look like a victim. So that is one of the major things that in our judicial system, you have to get, this is biased. You have to have an unbiased system to have people like us go through it. And also, I don't think that the government is putting money into education to educate youngsters. They don't have a system made up. They can't even handle us coming out. Can you imagine everybody who's been abused all of a sudden decides to go through the judicial system? They're not equipped.
That's a good plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody come out.
So everybody just bombard the system, right? But the system as it is now doesn't, of the charges that get, the people that come out, they go to the police. Out of the police, whoever gets, believed, then they take that information to the police, to the crown prosecutor. Then it's up to the crown prosecutor to see if they're gonna take it, the next step. And a lot of times it just fizzles away and doesn't go anywhere, so.
Question in the back.
Yeah, so this is actually just having to do with what you said about what we were wearing. And recently I came across an article where victims of sexual abuse have actually started a museum, and I believe it's called What Were You Wearing? And they have the clothing, which is just like ordinary clothing, tracksuits, etc. And so it's really quite I'm sure it's good for those victims as well. I just wanted to add that there are some positive things happening.
And it's got nothing to do with what were you doing, what were you wearing. And I know when I watch the film and you get, well, you shouldn't sit so close to him, and I think, you're telling a little kid, a child, that someone who's supposed to be their brother, you're not supposed to sit beside them? Like, how does that make sense? And that's quite common, like, it's not just the whole privileging, I don't have to tell this group, the gender bias is there with this in all our systems, right? And it's in all our societies, like, there aren't too many systems that aren't patriarchal.
I didn't understood one thing. The father telling girls not to sit beside him, but bringing him into the house. Why would they bring him into the house? If he was that afraid, he didn't want his girls to sit beside him.
My dad, my parents, they shared their home, they shared, everything with their family. This is their extended family, like my mom's sisters, my uncles, he was my cousin, this guy. They wanted to share their good fortune, and they were also told it was their responsibility when they came to Canada. My dad was only 23 when he came to Canada, and my mom, we came 3 years later, so mom was about 27. And they had an obligation to help their family back home and have them immigrate to Canada. So the family back home could economically prosper. Not just my dad's side of the family, but also my mom's side of the family. And as Indian people, we have large families. So it's just in the culture, it's so ingrained. It's up to the girl child not to sit beside the males.
To protect herself.
We have to protect our own virginity. Males are allowed to do whatever, and they do this knowing that it's going to be the female that's blamed. I outline all of this stuff in my book, The Silent Stoning, and it goes much deeper than the documentary into all of the nuances, the cultural nuances, and it questions, like I question my dad, I question the culture, I question the great-grandmothers that knew, and they're in their grave, but I question my mom who hasn't even shared her story, but it's written all over her body as to what my mom's been through, right? We don't need like the mice study where the mice is shocked when there's a cherry blossom, and fast forward, like you said, generations forward, the offsprings the grandchildren, great-grandchildren, those mice actually have the fear of cherry blossoms the smell of cherry blossoms, when they're not even zapped, electrocuted in any way. That's just how it's passed down, and it's all, written over my mom. But my dad, he wants to help out his family, and he did. But then on the other hand, he didn't lay down the law. When my cousin walked through, the door into our house, he was 21 years old. He'd be almost 10 years older than me. And I don't remember Dad telling him, oh, these are your sisters. This is how you're gonna sit with them, behave with them. Otherwise, this is what I'm gonna do to you. He sat us down and told us he's your brother and you have to call him Baji.
It's protecting your own family too, right? He should have, that's what I feel.
Well, I think he's protecting the system. Yeah. He's ingrained in a system where, you have the hierarchy of the male, and anybody who is associated with the male, which would be, cousin or uncles, they get that same control over every female in the household. So instead of sitting the males down and saying, hey, this is the game plan, and we're gonna respect their boundaries and respect them as human beings, they're just given a free-for-all to discipline you, to mentally treat you terribly, and obviously physically and verbally as well.
So how has your community dealt with the hurt?
Everybody
must know.
Everybody knows. He lives in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. After we came out with Broke Our Silence, he was still being invited to family functions.
That's a moral obscenity.
Yes. How does my community deal with it? They just ignore it as if it didn't happen. Or also, they don't get in the middle of it. If he's there posing danger to other kids in, their environment, they don't address that.
And they don't want that side of the family to come out with their own, then they're gonna have to deal with the snowball effect on their end, right?
That's why they were trying to shut us down. Like, my aunts and uncles in Edmonton, they were shutting us down, and we were the ones that, they were pointing fingers at and blaming. Oh, Jeeti did this, oh, this is Jeeti, after, doing all this with him, now she's complaining type thing, right? So it's Jeeti that did that, because they want the stories of their children not to come out if there are any.
Well, they will be.
Of course.
If the perp is still around and welcomed in and can mix with everybody and anybody of any age and any gender, then they're supporting him.
Yeah. People know where he lives. Nobody's taking an umbrella, and batted him with an umbrella or anything, nothing like that.
Well, he hasn't been shunned or anything like that, obviously.
No, not that I know of.
But there is another cousin.
What did happen after our court case, when our court case got stayed, Crown did appeal it. It went to the BC Appeal Court of BC in Vancouver, and the 5 judges denied Crown's request. They upheld the decision that the previous judge has made that, the accused was violated, his charter rights was violated, right?
That was what year?
That was 2021.
So soon.
Yeah, that was just 2021. And then after that, someone did come out after hearing that this is what's happened to us and the case has been stayed. They came forward and there were charges against him in Edmonton. That case went forward and he was sentenced to 6 months in prison. He was found guilty. Out of that, maybe he only served 2, right? So it's inspired somebody else to come out. And since we've come out, there's messages that I get from other people that they're doing the civil suit, so they're going to civil court, or some of them are going to criminal court. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole tsunami of these cases that are coming forward and will be coming forward in the future. And especially since more of us break our silence, it allows the younger generations to use their voice and not have to live in this shame and this guilt that you carry every single day, whether, they're believed or not.
And you talked about the community response, like I know of a case right now where it's happened in a family and everybody is still like pretending it didn't happen, other than one group that I know, like one family. The rest of the extended family just ignores it.
Nobody talks to my parents, like what was with us, our family is now just our family unit. So, my mom, doesn't have a relationship much with her sisters and stuff, and my dad with his nephews and all of that, no. So we're just now, finally, we're our own family.
Yeah,
And also, going back to, saying what he gets invited to, what he doesn't, he gets invited to do all these ceremonies and different, family members are advocating it. And we don't get invited to any of these things, we don't get to, well, obviously we wouldn't go either. No, yeah, we don't wanna go, but the irony, they should at least get us to talk, we're motivational speakers. You know what I mean? They should get us to come and, and just going back, I think energetically, in this room and then with the documentary, with everybody else who's ever dealt with something like this, I think energetically we're letting them know it's okay to put down that blatant shame and just accept yourself and let you know that you're gonna be okay, and then just take it one day at a time.
Yeah, actually, I have a couple now. So when you were speaking, Jeeti, you were saying that your mom doesn't have a relationship with her siblings. So those are the siblings, like the sisters who are, one of them being the mother of your cousin, who
My cousin is,
sexual predator.
this is my dad's sister's son.
Okay.
Yeah, so my dad doesn't have a relationship with his sister.
Yeah.
Obviously, his sister just treated it as put water underneath the big brother.
Right.
That was it. There was no responsibility. Nobody's taking any responsibility of anything, right? And with my mom's side of the family, same thing. There comes a line when there comes a time where you have to take a stand, right? And we are also intermarried. Like we have intermarriages in our culture a lot. So my mom's sister is married to the perpetrator's brother, one of her sisters. So obviously that relationship severed, right? And then when it came to, do you guys support my daughters or not? So her sisters didn't step up, so she doesn't really have a relationship with any of them, to be honest.
So really, the sexual predator isn't shunned, but in a way, your family.
Yes.
You are.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
again, the victim.
Yes, absolutely. They don't think we're heroes, no.
No.
They think we're troublemakers, they think we're liars.
They're the elephant in the room. They don't want to be.
Also, they want to marry their daughters, so if anything down the line has happened to their daughters, they just want to shut it down because they want their prospect of their daughters to be,
And they don't wanna know.
yeah, they don't.
No,
They don't wanna know, they want, their head to be still buried in the sand, and that's where they wanna keep it, right? Because then you have to deal with all this.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. It's
Right?
very- Yeah, it's messy, it's shameful, all of that. Okay, so then my second part was, I'm shocked. So the Criminal Code of Canada, there's a statute of limitations on sexual assault.
The duration of the trial itself.
Oh,
There's a limit on that. The trial the accused has the right for the trial to be finished in a timely fashion.
and because you said it took, how long?
In court time, it's 2.5 years, like actual court time, so 2.5 or whatever days that is, 365 times 2.5, right?
Yeah.
And then what he did was he would purposely file applications for delays. The first application he filed was a venue change application. He didn't want the trial in Williams Lake because it's too hard for him to commute there from Edmonton. So Vancouver would be easier for him. That was one of his excuses. And they said it would be easier for us since we live here, but when does he ever care about us, right?
Oh, right.
So, and then that took a very long time to, them to figure that out. I think a good year and a half. So I'm not sure exactly how many days were used in court. But then there's also, well, now I need their counseling records. So what do you think that's gonna do? That's gonna take more days of court time. And then, I'm sick.
Oh,
So he's not gonna show up. So we're all there, but that's about, I don't know, 4 hours or a whole day of court time. And then, the translation. So he used this transcript, which was translated by Crown Counsel upon judge's order. He used it for a good 3 to 4 years, I believe it was, and they used it for the first part of the trial in 2015 when they questioned the police on the stand. And come time for us to testify, then they had a whole issue with the statement.
The statement was
It's not
translated
correct.
from English to Punjabi.
Yeah, so they were saying that the English translation, Punjabi translation is not correct. Now they want their own person to translate. So they have all these different tactics that keep on coming up. So that has to be argued in court. So, prosecution's gonna argue why it shouldn't, they're gonna say why it should. That uses up how many days or weeks? So if you add up all this time, and there's a lot of other stuff that, we can add on to that, excuse after excuse, and the judge kept on granting him the adjournment. And where did we end up? So we're over the 2.5 years of time.
That's despicable, because he's the one delaying it, obviously.
Yes.
It's here for everybody
So
to see
over the whole run of the trial itself started in, when was it? I can't even remember. Our prelim was 2013. 2013 was our prelim. And then it starts when he's first charged, right? The time starts the minute he's charged. So he was charged in 2011. So time started ticking the minute the warrant was issued. And if the police didn't go arrest him for 4 months, that time is used against the state. It's used against Crown. So 2.5 years, of time, it compiled up pretty quick over since 2011.
Also, if you go to jeeti.com, she has all of the reasons that was given by our judge as to why he decided to do this. And then the appeal court also has reasons as well, that's also there. And those 5 judges did say that the justice did make error. So there was.
No, that's not what they said.
But there was an admittance that the justice.
No, they didn't say that the judge admitted error. They said that these are serious crimes, and the outcome of this case marks a failure in the justice system. They admitted to that. So this is 5 judges commenting on their own system.
So how do you, now I have one last question. So how do you reconcile that? I'm livid, I can feel my heart racing in my throat just for you, for everything that you had to go through. And then our system has failed you. So how are you going on and, bringing beauty and healing and wholeness into your lives and into your family's lives now?
I can say justice is not found out there. It's not found out through any system. It's not found out through your parental unit, whether they believe you or not, or whether the system believes you or not. Justice is found inside. It's the innocence. If you can connect to that innocence that is inside you, we are all born with it. I won't get into how we lose it, but we're all born with it. And if we can make that connection to that spark of the divine that we are, it is our birthright, our innocence, our right to be worthy and deserving and to have it all. That all resides within us as we accept ourselves. When we're in these systems, the court system or family or you name it, we're looking for validation from them out there. But the only person that needs to validate you is yourself. It's all in my book. I mean, it makes sense to me.
For me, it's a little different. I had told, before they broke their silence, I had told the perpetrator to his face, I'm going to tell everybody what you did. And he reacted to me very violently, and thank God Jeeti was there. She was able to block him, so he wasn't able to get to me. And when I walked into that court...
Good evening, patrons of the South Surrey Recreation and Arts Center. The time is now 8:45, and the facility will be closing in 15 minutes. If you please gather belongings and finish up the evening. We will reopen tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Thank you.
So just to finish up, it was the biggest court, biggest worldwide stage that I could tell everybody what he did to me. And I did it with a big bang. And I know anger is okay for me, I went through a process of anger, but that was me stepping into the court case and doing it with everyone.
And that's why we carried on. Like, it was tiring, we went to Williams Lake, I don't even know how many times, but we kept with it because he was actually having to take responsibility by sitting there and having to listen to our truth, our story, something our parents couldn't do. Something in the end the court system didn't even follow through with, right? But that was the biggest.
And we brought him there because of our actions, because we spoke our truth. Regardless of what the outcome would be, we brought him there, and I'm so proud of him too. He was there.
Gonna be forever.
Yeah.
It's our gift to the world. It's gift to like all ages. And I'm so glad like even like all ages can learn something from here. Yeah.
And all genders, and all genders.
All genders. All genders.
And I just want to start the community healing. Thank you so much for your heart and your soul for being here, sharing our story. Please take it out into the world.
Yes. And if you have a question, you can email me. I'm easy to find. Just look up